The evening was heavy with suspense, the sort that permeates your very marrow and clings stubbornly. In the large Brown family house, gossip spread like a flame, talk of a secret kept locked behind the doors of homes. Kody Brown, the leader of this complicated polygamous family, strode back and forth, his thoughts consumed by the burden of choice that threatened to destroy it all. Walls closed in on the wives, Meri, Janelle, Christine, and Robyn, as they sensed a change in the atmosphere, an unspoken tension that made their skin crawl. No one was prepared for the bombshell that would fall. Suspicion had brewed under the surface for months. Little white lies, forgotten phone calls, mysterious disappearances. Meri caught it first, a new fragrance on Kody's coat, a furtive look at his phone. Janelle heard brief rumors from a close friend that suggested the presence of a stranger in Kody's life. Christine's own gut feelings assured her something was amiss, although she wouldn't speak it aloud. And Robyn, ever the level-headed one, found herself fighting to remain calm as doubt insidiously seeped in like a thief. The reality was far more incendiary than any of them could ever have imagined. In a clandestine wedding, secret from the rest of the family, Kody had acquired a new bride, a clandestine fourth wife. None of them suspected. As weeks crept into months, the tenuous equilibrium that held the family together started breaking. Questions devolved into accusations, trust disintegrated, loyalties were pushed to the limit like never before. Just when you've gotten to know the Brown family inside and out, something like this comes along and turns everything around. What are the wives going to do when the truth finally surfaces? Behind the closed doors of their home, emotions ran high: anger, betrayal, confusion. Robyn's usually steady voice faltered as she confronted Kody, demanding answers he was reluctant to give. Meri's hurt was palpable, her eyes brimming with tears as she realized she had been kept in the dark. Christine's fierce pride made her lash out, while Janelle wrestled with feelings of abandonment and disbelief. Each of the wives struggled with her own hurt, but all together, their confrontation unleashed a firestorm that could have engulfed the entire family. The covert fourth wife was not a mere addition. She was an interruption, a catalyst that exposed fissures long beneath smiles and superficial harmony. What compelled Kody to maintain such a colossal secret? Love, desperation, or perhaps something sinister? And to what lengths will the wives go to safeguard their position in his life? As the Brown family saga plays out, it becomes apparent that the battle isn't so much about one man's decisions, it's about identity, trust, and surviving against all odds in a family founded on tenuous ground. Stick with us, because what really happens is just around the corner. What would you do if your whole life was turned on its head by a secret such as this? Let us know in the comments below. The still moments tend to conceal the most raucous storms, and this family's tranquility is soon going to be destroyed. Secrets never stay buried forever, particularly in a home so full of hearts and heritage. Every decision has an outcome, but not all outcomes alter lives forever. The morning sun streamed gently through the windows of the Brown family residence, casting golden colors over the neatly put-together living room. It was a peaceful moment, quietly calm considering the upheaval that had started to move through the family over the past few weeks. Kody Brown sat at the kitchen table, a line furrowing his brow as he gazed at the undrunk cup of coffee in front of him. His thoughts were much further from the serene morning light. They were filled with the burden of the secret he kept, a secret that would no longer stay concealed. Meri Brown entered the room, her eyes meeting Kody's with a mixture of concern and quiet resignation. "You've been distant lately," she said softly, her voice trembling just enough to betray the fear she felt. "Is there something you're not telling us?" Kody dithered, the silence between them taut as a cobweb. He knew one day the truth would no longer be able to be hidden, but the admission of it would shatter the tenuous bond still keeping the family together. Sometimes silence screams louder than words, and in this home it's beginning to scream. Down the hall, Janelle sat in her favorite armchair, swiping through her phone but hardly seeing the screen. Her brain whirred with doubts she couldn't dismiss. There were small things, a missed call, a late-night departure, that didn't compute. She replayed the conversations in her head, looking for clues in the tone of Kody's voice. In the distracted stares, her phone buzzed with a message from Christine. "We need to talk. Something's going on, and I'm not waiting to find out through rumors." Janelle swallowed hard, feeling the weight of an unspoken alliance forming among the wives. They were all sensing the same shadow lurking just beyond the surface. In the meantime, Christine walked her bedroom back and forth, her typically sharp mind in a state of doubt. The woman who had conquered every obstacle with flaming bravado was now wrestling with uncertainty. She and Kody had always had a complicated dynamic, punctuated by flashes of ferocious loyalty and abiding breaks. Now the breaks looked like they were opening wide, ready to rip fully open. Robyn, the youngest and usually most sheltered wife, sat silently in the living room corner. She had always been the emotional glue that kept the family's threads connected. But even her tranquil facade was starting to break. She thought about a recent fight with Kody and the hurtful words, the threats of secrets she was not supposed to know. Trust is delicate. Once lost, it's difficult to determine if it can ever be restored. The tension within the household was gripping. All the wives grappled with their own suspicions and fears, but no one dared confront Kody directly, until one night altered the course of events. It was one of those late nights, the kind that seemed to weigh heavily and stretch on forever. The family had come in for supper, but it had been tense. Kody sat at the head of the table, his eyes far away, not making eye contact. Meri tried to diffuse the silence, but her words hung flat against the mounting wall of tension. Suddenly the front door swung open. The noise boomed out like a thunderclap. Every head turned as a woman entered, a stranger to all, but one whose presence would alter the family's lives forever. Her name was Lydia. She was younger than the other wives, with a fierce quiet in her eyes that gave away a past of secrets. She walked with a combination of confidence and vulnerability, a contradiction that impressed and unsettled the family all at once. Kody stood up to welcome her, his face a combination of relief and nervousness. "Lydia, meet my family." The wives looked at each other in stunned silence, their faces strained with incredulity. The advent of Lydia was such as to cast a stone into tranquil waters, waves of turmoil spreading with each beat of the heart. When Lydia sat down, the underlying question loomed large: who she was and why she had come now. The evening unfolded with strained pleasantries and forced smiles, but beneath the surface, emotions churned: anger, betrayal, confusion. Meri's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. Janelle's jaw clenched tightly, fighting back words she longed to say. Christine's gaze was sharp and unyielding, a storm brewing just beneath the surface. Robyn's silence spoke volume, a mixture of shock and guarded curiosity. Kody's voice then broke the heavy silence. "I know this is a lot to process. Lydia has been in my life for quite some time now. I wanted to say all of this sooner, but I was afraid of what this would do to us." The wives responded at once, and hotly. Meri's voice trembled as she demanded, "Why didn't you tell us, Kody? How could you not tell us about something like this?" Janelle's resentment was patent. "We're entitled to know the truth, not in the dark." Christine's rage seethed, waiting to erupt. "Are we supposed to just take this without question?" Robyn's eyes shone with tears as she breathed. "How long has this been going on?" Kody's responses were guarded but trembling. He talked of love, of tangled feelings, of attempting to safeguard everyone. But his words served only to assuage the pain that spread like fire through the family. In families founded on trust and common history, secrets are the most lethal currency. As the evening passed, the walls between the wives collapsed, revealing raw wounds and seething resentments. Old friendships were disrupted by the realization of Lydia's presence. The next day was no better. Only more questions. The wives met in small clusters, voices low but full of emotion. Meri told Robyn, her voice shaking, "I don't know if I can forgive him. This is a betrayal I won't be able to recover from." Robyn attempted to provide solace, but even she was having trouble maintaining hope. Christine talked back to Kody in private, her voice cold. "You made a decision that impacts us all. You owe us the truth. No more lies." Janelle, on the other hand, called Lydia and asked the question straight out. The call was tense but enlightening. Lydia told her side of things, a story of being invisible, of needing love and acceptance, but also of being entangled in a cover-up that had never been her choice. There are two sides to every story, but when emotions are this high, it's difficult to hear anything other than the hurt. As the days went by, the family's delicate balance broke further. Tensions ran high, and the wives stood at crossroads, whether to unite or splinter. Kody's patriarchal position was challenged like never before. The man who used to keep the family's fragments together now fought to keep them from crumbling. And in the midst of it all, Lydia remained an enigma, a secret no longer secreted, but not yet fully accepted. The setting was made for a family in conflict, torn between betrayal and love, denial and truth. If you believe that secrets like this destroy family, wait until you see how far they'll go to maintain what they have left. The days after Lydia's return were a whirlwind of emotions churning in the Brown family. Walls once thought impenetrable now wore the fissures of suspicion and heartache. Every wife withdrew into her own hurricane, fighting to find her footing amidst the unexpected turmoil. Meri paced out the long hallway, late at night, the quiet that surrounded her, only making the thrashing of her heart grow louder. The trust she had placed in Kody had been ripped into shreds that she could never possibly locate. She thought over every moment, every word, questioning how she'd ever miss seeing what was right in front of her. The secret wife was not only a betrayal, it was a wound so deep that it endangered all she had created in conjunction with Kody. I just don't get it, Meri whispered to herself, voice hardly above a whisper in the still house. How could he have kept this from us, from all of us? When trust is lost, every step forward is like walking on broken glass. Back in the kitchen, Janelle sat at the table, her phone tightly clutched in her hand. She and Christine had been going back and forth, trying to sort through the destruction that had erupted into their lives. Their messages were filled with anger, frustration, and a fear of what this might mean for the future of their family. I don't believe Kody thought this was acceptable, Janelle typed angrily. We deserve the truth. How can we ever get past this without it? Christine responded quickly. I'm sick of being in the dark. We need to sit him down, all of us, and demand some answers. No more secrets. The anxiety in their speech was the echo of the boiling point that none of them wished to achieve, but seemed unavoidable. Robyn, being the peacekeeper that she is, attempted to keep the family intact, but on the inside she felt like she was falling apart. Her meetings with Lydia were cordial yet detached, tinged with unwritten questions that neither of them dared to ask. One day, Robyn finally broke down in private, weeping as she unburdened herself to a close friend. I don't know what to do to mend this, she said, her voice cracking. It feels like the family is slipping between my fingers. At times the strongest require most support, even when they're the ones everyone else looks up to for strength. While tensions brewed, the family had to face the fact that Lydia's existence was greater than a secret shared. It was a test of their whole lifestyle. The other wives struggled between their own jealousy, pain, and betrayal. Each one grappled with the question, was it possible for Kody's love to be shared without shattering? Kody, on the other hand, was entangled in his own web. His nights were fitful, tormented by visions of the wives whose lives he believed he had destroyed irrevocably. He realized that the secret could not remain concealed any longer, but the future was clouded in misery and uncertainty. One night, the wives summoned the family to a meeting, a strained and unusual gathering, where resentments simmered just below the surface. The air vibrated with emotion as each wife shared her truth, one by one. Meri's voice shook as she started. Kody, I feel like I don't even know you anymore. This secret, it's like a knife in my back. Janelle's eyes blazed with fury. We founded this family on integrity. How are we supposed to keep going when everything's been a deception? Christine's voice was cold and serrated. I'm sick of explanations. We're entitled to respect and honesty. Robyn's normally unruffled composure was shattered, tears welling up in her eyes. I want to believe in us, but it's so difficult when it seems like we're losing everything. Kody heard, the burden of their words weighing on him like a body. He attempted to explain, to beg, but the harm was already done. The trust was broken, and the family's cohesion was in shreds. Words can heal or destroy in moments like these, and sometimes they do both simultaneously. As darkness fell, a sudden voice interrupted the tension. Lydia spoke softly but decidedly, sharing her own hurt and conflict. I didn't come here to destroy your family. I came because I believed in love, even if it's complicated. Her words were received in silence, the wives absorbing another level of complexity in their naughty lives. But just when it appeared the family could find a way to start healing, another revelation came that could send them further into turmoil. A discreet message popped up on Janelle's phone. A text from a mysterious number with photos that left her reeling. Photos of Kody and Lydia, in scenes that hinted at more than mere secrecy. There were overtones of deception, of secrets hidden from all the others. Janelle's hands shook as she displayed the photos to the others, the room filling with outraged gasps and climbing anxiety. When truth continues to reveal itself, can any family weather the storm? The wives understood Lydia was just a piece of a greater picture, one filled with betrayals and ulterior motives none of them could have possibly anticipated. Their universe was coming unraveled sooner than they could gasp a breath, and the only question on everybody's lips was the same one. Just how deep did this deception run? Each new fragment of the puzzle poses more questions than solutions, and sometimes the greatest secrets are right in front of you. The discovery of those pictures sent shockwaves in the Brown family. The photos captured Kody and Lydia in private meetings, scheming about something no one of the wives had any idea about. The feelings of betrayal intensified, and the already tenuous trust that had just kept the family afloat was now on the verge of dissolving altogether. Meri had spoken first for everyone. Why are there meetings behind our backs? What is he hiding now? Janelle's rage had reached the boiling point, her words cutting and accusatory. We should know everything. No more secrets, no more deception. Christine, usually the most conservative, was actually shaking. If this is how Kody works, where does it end? How many more deceptions are there? Robyn sat in silence, the burden of it all weighing upon her like a physical weight. She was caught between loyalty to Kody and her increasing reservations about what she believed she knew. Sometimes the toughest wars are fought in silence, within the heart. Kody understood that the days of half-truths were over. The family needed answers, and he had no other option but to confess what he had been keeping secret. But the truth that he came up with was not anywhere close to what the wives were anticipating. At an intense emotional meeting, Kody made clear that Lydia wasn't merely a secret wife, but someone whom he had promised to assist in escaping a violent past. The meetings depicted in the photographs were regarding strategies for safeguarding her, not only from family criticism, but from individuals who sought to hurt her. The wives heard, some in doubt, others in incredulity. The tale complicated the backstory. Lydia wasn't simply an interloper in their family saga, but a woman with her own sinister past, drawing everyone into a scenario far more complex than polygamy friction. When there is danger hiding behind the curtain, loyalty is a completely new concept. Meri couldn't grapple with this. Protecting Lydia was understandable, but at what cost? Did it make the lies acceptable? She wasn't sure if Kody's motives, however good, could ever be greater than the harm done by the deceit. Janelle, on the other hand, fought with her feelings, anger versus sympathy. She couldn't dismiss Lydia's frightened eyes, but betrayal hurt terribly. Christine insisted on more honesty. If Lydia's history is so deadly, why weren't we informed? Why did you hide it from us? Kody's voice cracked. I wanted to shield you all from fear, from anxiety. I thought I was doing the right thing. Robyn extended her hand, it shaking, attempting to provide comfort while wrestling with her own uncertainty. We want to assist, but we need to be honest with one another. The tenuous strands of trust began to interweave once more, but the injury was far from mended. Just as the family was starting to cautiously come together again, Lydia herself delivered a bombshell. In a moment of quiet, removed from the fiery exchanges, she disclosed a secret she had secretly carried within her, a secret that might rearrange the very fabric of their world. Lydia confessed she had been contacted by someone from her past, someone who threatened not only her safety, but the safety of the entire Brown family. The danger was closer than anyone had imagined. Fear can unite even the most fractured family, but it can also drive them apart in unexpected ways. Panic filled the family. They understood that their fights were no longer fights about secrets and betrayal. They were now fights for survival. Kody took control, setting up protection arrangements and deciding to meet the danger head-on. But his choices created tension among the wives, some challenging his authority, some being concerned for their own safety. Meri spoke out vehemently. Are we certain we're doing the right thing? This will annihilate us all. Janelle was stubborn, bent on defending her family no matter what. We can't escape from it, we need to confront it together. Christine, usually the doubter, found herself vacillating between faith and suspicion. I merely wish to know we're safe. Robyn's inner strength became a bulwark for the family, her determination stiffening in the face of fear. In the midst of the mayhem, a cryptic telephone call turned everything around. Lydia picked up, her complexion wan as the caller uttered a dire threat. The caller threatened to make Lydia leave the Brown family at once, or suffer calamitous repercussions. When threats are issued from the dark, trust is your sole armor. The wives closed in on Lydia, fear and resolve marked on their faces. It was no longer a matter of betrayal or secrets. It was one of remaining together in the presence of danger. As they geared up for the unknown, the ties between them began to transform. Ancient grudges dissipated, replaced by a defiant loyalty forged in adversity. But the peril was not yet over. During the stillness at dawn, a burglary on the family estate sent shivers throughout the household. Doors were open, things were upset, and an unnerving message etched in dust. A message that the past Lydia ran from was coming at her with speed. And sometimes the deadliest dangers aren't within, but the specters at our backs. The family was left reeling, not knowing who they could trust and what to expect next. Kody's leadership was put to the test, as he promised to defend his wives and Lydia at all costs. But with friend and enemy boundaries blurred, the Brown family's darkest hour was yet to come. When fear clamps its hold, families disintegrate or learn to get back up stronger than before. The morning broke over the Brown family home, but morning's customary peace was disrupted. The burglary had left its mark, a tangible reminder of the intangible danger encroaching upon Lydia and all she loved. Doors were left ajar, possessions were upset, and the cold message penned in the dust whispered at those who read it a warning that chilled every spine. Meri was standing in the doorway to the living room, her breath stuck in her throat as she absorbed the situation. This wasn't some random attack. Someone had visited with purpose, a message designed to scare, to frighten. Her heart was racing with fear and rage. How had they allowed this to occur? And more specifically, what did it portend for their future? When safety is compromised, the real struggle starts, not for survival, but for hope and trust. Janelle came shortly after, her face set in grim determination. She strode fast, moving from room to room, making certain no one else was injured. Her warmth was replaced by steel. This was war, and she was prepared to fight. Christine trailed behind, her feelings a complicated mess of fear, frustration, and motherly instinct. She paced back and forth in the room, her brain working overtime to rationalize the attack. "We can't just stay here," she snapped. "We need to do something. We need to prepare." Robyn, having become the emotional center of the family, came forward. "We must stand together. This threat is not only against Lydia. It's against all of us." Kody, weighed down by the burdens of leadership and the burdens of his previous decisions, gazed around at the faces of women he loved. The secrets, the lies, the betrayals, they all looked puny now in the face of the danger lurking at their doorstep. In times of crisis, the past recedes, and only the struggle for the future is left. The family sat in the living room, a ring of unity amidst the turmoil. Lydia's eyes were haunted, the fear she struggled to keep at bay barely concealed. She explained to them about the man from her past, the one who had threatened her own well-being and now sought to destroy the entire family. "He's dangerous," Lydia said, voice barely a whisper. "He won't stop until he gets what he wants." Meri's hands trembled as she reached out to touch Lydia's arm. "We're here for you. You're not alone." But even as they pledged unity, doubt lingered. How deep did the danger run? Could they truly protect Lydia and themselves? Kody made the tough call to hire outsiders, a private security detail to protect the family and work on the threats. The wives were ambivalent about the move. Some thought it was necessary. Others feared opening up the family to more scrutiny. Tension increased with the arrival of the security detail. Cameras were put in, patrols were scheduled. The family's once private retreat was now a fortress. At times, safety is gained at the price of freedom, and the protection that walls serve may also imprison. Days turned into nervous ones. Each sound was a potential danger, each shadow a possible threat. The wives were forced to look over their shoulders, their faith strained but their resolve unshaken. But even as they came to terms with this new reality, cracks in their cohesion started appearing. Old wounds and fears reopened due to fear and stress. Meri was withdrawing, tormented by the reality that no one was ever safe, not even in these walls. She wondered if Kody's choices had only served to create more chaos. Janelle disagreed with Christine on how to respond, and their arguments were fueled by fear and exhaustion. Robyn tried to maintain peace, but she was also reaching her limits. Kody, who was being pulled both ways, fought the guilt of saving his family while trying to keep them together. Once fear gets its hold, Even the most secure connections can begin to unravel. One evening, sitting around the kitchen table, voices soft but strained, a knock on the door caught everyone off guard. The security detail acted fast to investigate, but the guest was uninvited. A police detective with questions. Detective Ramirez was stern but serene, her presence a chilling reminder that the threat had attracted attention beyond. She told the family that the burglary was one part of a broader investigation into crime linked to Lydia's history. "We're working on everything we can," she said. "But you need to be careful. This is no longer a family affair." The wives looked at each other with concern. Walls were closing in around their worlds, not only with threats, but with observers and pressure from the world outside. When the past meets the present, there's no avoiding the payoff. As weeks became days, the family learned to cope with their new life. Secrets and deception were less important now than unity and survival. The wives torn apart by betrayal were finding strength in each other. But underneath, tensions were smoldering. Old jealousies, fears, and insecurities didn't dissolve in a single night. Each wife was trying to cope with her own demons while holding the family together. Kody's leadership was constantly tested. Every decision of his questioned and scrutinized. The burden of responsibility weighed so heavily upon him, but he persisted, committed to defending those he cherished. And then there was the night that would alter everything. An unexpected blackout enveloped the house in darkness. Security alarms wailed, cutting through the stillness of the night. Panic erupted as the family struggled to react. In the midst of the chaos, Lydia went missing. Desperate searches ensued at once. The wives and security details scoured the grounds, shouting back and forth into the darkness. Kody's heart raced with terror and remorse. When the worst occurs, every puzzle fits into pandemonium. Hours passed before Lydia was discovered, trembling but otherwise unscathed in a wooded area nearby. She would not say how she came to be there, her silence heightening the mystery and the fear. The family was confronted with a new chilling question. Was Lydia's vanishing random, or part of an even greater, more malevolent scheme? The answers they were looking for were tantalizingly out of reach, as the looming shadow of danger lengthened. In the darkest hours, the truth will often take refuge in quiet, and quiet can be the deafening scream for help. The chill of the night air sliced at her as Lydia staggered back into the Brown household, the woods still whispering their secrets behind her. Her wide, frightened eyes spoke a tale she couldn't yet put into words. Kody opened the door for her, enveloping her in a frantic hug, relief and fear combining in his chest. "I'm here," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. "You're safe now." But safety, they all knew, was fragile, like a glass on the edge of a table, ready to shatter with the slightest touch. Meri sat quietly in the corner of the living room, her hands gripped tightly in her lap. The fact that Lydia was safe was a soothing balm, but the questions hammering in her mind brought no peace. How had Lydia slipped away so easily? Was the danger more imminent than they thought? Janelle paced, thoughts reeling in the worst. Security they'd established seemed insufficient now. Shadows were potential foes. Christine sat tense, eyes darting with fear and annoyance. "We can't wait for something else to happen," she said, low but intense. "We need to take action." Robyn nodded, her own calm dented. "We need answers, and we need to be together." Kody gathered them together, determination settling on his face. "This family is stronger than any threat. We'll face this together." In the face of danger, unity becomes both a shield and a beacon of hope. As the days passed, Lydia at last started to unfurl, sharing more of her history. The complicated web of lies, enemies and terrors she'd worked so desperately to leave behind. The wives heard, their own hurt transmuted into sympathy as they heard how much Lydia had suffered by herself. But even as they learned, so did the stakes rise. New dangers appeared. Mysterious messages, suspicious cars cruising around, and mysterious disturbances that kept everyone on their toes. Meri confronted Kody one night, her words weighed with sorrow. "We live in fear, and it's destroying us. We need an escape, some glimmer of hope." Kody's response was firm. "There's no fleeing from this. We confront it directly, or we risk losing everything." In the meanwhile, tensions among the wives simmered under the surface. Wounds old and new reopened. Jealousies flared. Accusations whispered behind closed doors. Trust remained tenuous, and the fear made everybody vulnerable. Christine's cutting words sliced deep late one night, while talking to Janelle. "We can't just pretend this has something to do with Lydia. There's more to it. and Kody isn't sharing everything. Janelle narrowed her eyes. Are you insinuating we don't know the whole story? The debate remained unresolved, a sign of how far the family's foundation had changed. Where trust breaks down, suspicion fills in the gaps left over. Robyn attempted to broker peace, but even her calming presence couldn't completely fill the widening gaps. In the midst of chaos, Kody had a moment of sense. One evening, around midnight, he summoned the wives. We have to be honest with each other. No more secrets. No matter what happens, we go through it together. The moment was tentative, but full of hope, a small step towards healing. But the tenuous peace was again broken when Lydia got a chilling call. This time the caller threatened a reckoning no one was prepared for. The family steeled themselves for what lay ahead, knowing their lives would never be the same again. Sometimes the toughest fights are the ones you fight together, but not everyone is willing to fight.